Hey guys, Thrasher here, and today we're talking about the evil emperor of the universe, Final Form Frieza. How does he work? What teams does he fit on? How long will he stay in the meta? We're going to cover it all right now. Let's get into it. Okay, so Frieza is a melee unit with excellent strike damage, but he is actually a melee glass cannon, which makes him sort of the opposite from most of the melee units we have in the game right now who are extremely tanky. He is not tanky, so he's a unit that you need to bring in when you want to do a lot of strike damage very quickly, and then you want to get him back out before he takes a lot of damage. So let's jump over to his abilities right now and sort of look at what he does and the units that he's built to counter. So let's open this up, go over to abilities, and his Z ability will increase strike and blast defense for yellow units. So if you are running him on a mono yellow team, he'll actually work extremely well, and we'll talk about teams here in a minute, but that's sort of how this Z ability works. He is built from the ground up to absolutely decimate purple Vegeta. So purple sparking Vegeta will take 20% strike damage because he has the Saiyan tag. He'll take another 15% damage because he has the Frieza Force tag. So one thing you'll notice about this bottom ability is it does extra damage to all members of the Frieza Force except for Frieza's. So it will do bonus damage to Vegeta, it'll do bonus damage to all the Ginyu Force members because they also have the Frieza Force tag, so keep that in mind. One problem with this strike attack bonus to tag Saiyan is a lot of the Saiyans that are in the game right now are red, so even though he has 20% bonus damage, he's going to have type disadvantage against a lot of the units that he's sort of built to fight. So that's just something to keep in mind there. And then the last ability up here, You're Going to Die, is what pulls his ultimate arts card. The Death Catastrophe is good. It's a reasonable attack. It does good damage, but there's nothing super special about it. Where this card really shines is when you go over to arts. This right here, Telekinesis, this immobilizes the enemy. You can't do it at long range. You have to be at mid-range or melee range, but it immobilizes the enemy, and it works against any attack. That means if someone is rising rushing you and you don't have the ability to Vanishing Step at the moment, you can Telekinesis, and it will stop the rising rush dead in its tracks. So this is, in my opinion, one of the best abilities in the game, period. So speaking of this card and this ability, let's go over to status real quick. And like I said before, he's a very fragile melee unit. One of the things to keep in mind is with the Frieza event running right now, he does have some new equipment that helps mask how fragile he is and makes him a little bit more reasonable, but he's still going to be much more fragile than every other melee unit in the sparking tier that's being used right now. So keep that in mind. He cannot take damage well. But he brings a Strike Arts card and a Ki Blast Arts card to the team, which is unfortunate because all of his damage is strike based. So he's actually bringing a card that does not help his damage at all. Just something to keep in mind if you're running a team that's not super balanced, where maybe you're all strike heavy, he's not going to be helping you bring extra strike cards, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind with arts cards is, like I said, he has one of the best skills in the game in Telekinesis right here. So what we want to do is we want to utilize that ability. There's a couple different ways we can do that. Captain Ginyu, if you have him on your team with Final Form Frieza, he is the only sparking character in the game right now that brings an extra green card to the field when you're fighting with him. So when we're putting Frieza on a team, we got to think about what teams can he actually fit on. Right now, his biggest problem is that he doesn't fit well into any of the top tier teams. He's not a bad unit. He can work on a lot of teams, but he's not your optimal unit, the unit that you're looking for. So a lot of the time, if you want to run Frieza, you're going to have to build a team around him. Like I said, Captain Ginyu is a great option to go with him. Frieza also is on the Frieza Force, so that buffs Captain Ginyu as well. So then the question is, who's your third unit going to be? I would say in that case, your third unit probably has to be either Piccolo or possibly Sparking Super Saiyan Trunks. The problem there is neither of those units really synergizes well with Frieza or with Captain Ginyu. So that's the big problem with Frieza in general right now, is he just doesn't have a great synergistic team outside of Mono Yellow which is very, very counterable. If you have any red units on your combat team at all, you're going to run through a mono yellow team. So that's something to keep in mind. So the question then becomes, where does he fit in the meta? Right now, I would say he's a very good unit that just can't be properly utilized at the moment. I think as we get more units that come out in the game in the very near future, he's going to have a lot of other options for teams he can fit onto well. Like I said, he can fit into most teams right now. He just won't synergize well with the other units. You can use him as more of a support character to set up other things. So you could drop him in and you could use his telekinesis to stop someone and then switch out to someone else to use a big move. But the question then becomes, do you want the liability of a very fragile unit who sort of just drops in, does a little bit of damage, freezes the unit, and switch to someone else? Do you want to have to deal with that if, say, you lose your other 2 units? Your third unit, being this Final Form Frieza, is going to be pretty helpless because he's not getting buffed by all your other units, and he can't take any damage. So that's just something to think about. I would say he's not in the meta at the moment, but there's a good chance that he's going to creep up into it in the near future. And that's really all there is to Frieza. He's a melee glass cannon. He can work well with Captain Ginyu on his team. He can work well in a mono yellow team. Doesn't really fit anywhere else. Make sure you're farming the equipment from the Frieza event if you're going to use this unit, and hopefully he will fit better onto teams in the future. If you guys have any questions about him, make sure to throw them down in the comments. I will respond. And if you guys like this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.